Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. We made it through another week. It is Friday, January 28th, 2022, and we made it through another week. It is the last week of the first month of 2022. And just remember that even though you may have not met all your goals this month, resolutions and things like that, that you still have an opportunity to start over again on a Monday. Monday is a new week. The next day is a new month, and you can start over. It's Freestyle Fridays, and as we do often on Freestyle Fridays, typically at 1 p.m., we talk a little bit of Boston politics, Massachusetts politics. This year, we're definitely going to talk a lot of Suffolk politics with the DA's race and the Suffolk sheriff's race as well. And this young woman that I'm getting ready to introduce was very instrumental a few years ago when we were educating and informing the community around the difference the DA makes. She's no stranger to the Java fam and the Java Cafe. I think the last time she was on, or either when we talked, she got on me about not recognizing the earlier appearance. Like she's been down a long time. I've known her for a long time. We used to sing together. And when I tell you that I am elated and excited, and I told her I was going to make her cry today, but I'll have to keep myself together because I'm so proud of this Black woman who has stepped up to run for Secretary of State here in the state of Massachusetts. And though we're in Massachusetts, and to some extent we take certain liberties for granted, it's not guaranteed always. And so we want to ensure that someone is in that office that shares our values, that understands the disproportionate impact of voting rights on Black and brown people across not only just Boston, but the state of Massachusetts. And so it is my pleasure. It is my honor to introduce my friend and sister as a candidate running for the Secretary of Massachusetts. So I'm going to bring her in. So I'll shut up. And that is Attorney Tanisha. Look at you. Are you blushing?
I am.
Attorney Sullivan, out of all the times you've been on and we've done things and pictures and said stuff and even some little interesting things to each other in our combos, I don't think I've ever seen you blush.
Oh, James.
I didn't make you cry, but I made you blush, so I'm good.
You did it.
I am so, when I meant everything I said when I introduced you, Tanisha, for the times that you've come in and educated us, for the times that you've come in and mobilized us, for the times that you've come in and challenged us, and the times you've challenged allies. It is not a surprise that you are looking to ascend into a seat that would allow you to oversee all the things that would make it easier for us to do everything that you've talked about previously. And so for those that may not know, when you're a candidate, so I'll take you through the regular process. Say good morning, say who you are, and then end your introduction by telling us one word that describes how you're feeling today.
Okay. Well, I had to get my word, James. I had to get my word.
I'm going to enjoy this.
No, thank you so much for such an authentic and warm welcome. You know, it has been, actually, I chuckled when you said a long time. I was like, I don't even know if I was double digits. I think I was. I know you were.
Yes. course. Oh, Jesus. I don't think I have enough Java this morning.
No, it has been just it's been over 30 years,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
for the two of us. And it is not lost on me that we met singing in a Bay State choral chorale, in a gospel choir.
Yep.
Because faith is so important. It is a foundation. It is the foundation for both of us.
Yes.
We share that, and I am just so thankful and grateful for what God is doing in and through you, and for this platform, the vision that He gave to you, the fact that you listened to His voice and you acted on it. And look at you. Just look at you now. I'm very proud of you for that.
Yes.
And it's the same for me, James.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am, born in Boston, raised in Brockton. My grounding is in faith and in the church. It is where I was introduced to service. And so when I think about what it means to be in community, what it means to serve, what it means to fight for and with those of us who are living on the margins. All of that I can trace back to my church home and my faith and what my parents poured into me from a faith standpoint. And so in this moment, as I've declared my candidacy for Secretary of State here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I do so with a heart of service, with a spirit of service, and with a belief that what God puts in us, He is going to equip us to fulfill the purpose that is related to it. And so I do believe that, this service calling that I have has led me to run for this office. Why?
You just took my questions, so go ahead.
Sorry. Why? And you hit the nail on the head, James, and you went right to the heart of this. We have in our work, I'm a trained, and I practice corporate law. Now this is my 20th year of legal practice. I know, look at those eyes. My 20th year of corporate legal practice. And, I've been fortunate to serve in, several organizations, nonprofit organizations across the Commonwealth, including my service as president of the NAACP Boston. And
volunteer service.
My volunteer role. I've had 2 full-time jobs for a very long time now. But that service, my professional work and the service through the NAACP, we're fighting for educational equity. We're fighting for economic opportunity. We're fighting for, access to quality healthcare and reform in the criminal legal system, right? And all of those fights that we as community are lifting up and amplifying require us to work with and through government, to work with and through elected officials. Okay. Elected officials get elected. In order for an elected official to get elected, they got to come through the Secretary of State's office. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Secretary of State is the chief elections officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Okay. The person who is responsible for how elections are administered. Okay. And so when we think about the national fight for voting
You
rights,
stop taking. I'm not going to get a chance to ask the questions, but go ahead.
I'm going to pause.
Oh, you good. Because that was what you talked about. You gave your history, you talked about your why, and then the only thing, and you covered it, but I'll name that. I was going to ask why the transition from the volunteer service into the elected office. And then as you were talking, I'm like, there's somebody out there. Oh, we're good. This is Boston, Massachusetts. This isn't the South. And so you were getting ready to go into, and I just said, okay, I'll just let you talk, and I won't need to ask anything because you seem to have it. Oh, and there were no questions sent pre game. She just covered everything. Go ahead, Madam President candidate.
So, James, nationally, we're in this fight for voting rights and access. We all know it. We've watched it play out on television. We've watched it play out on social media. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, right? All of these, this legislation that has been at the forefront of debate in Congress related to our voting rights. We've watched it play out. And many of us have been frustrated, angry, and incredibly disappointed that in 2021 and 2022, we are still fighting for voting rights in this country. Okay. And that our democracy is being used as a political football. Okay. And so what that means is that the responsibility to protect and defend voting rights and expand them, hopefully we'll talk about that too, right? To protect and defend and expand voting rights falls on the states. We have to lead on this. And the fact of the matter is, Massachusetts is behind other states on voting rights.
How so? Because again, there's this presumption, that, and I know that in the pandemic there were some things that were done. I am aware that some were temporary and where we would want them to be permanent. And so when you say behind, what exactly does that mean? And then we are going to go into how you would approach and expand the office, like the website. I just went and looked, and I was trying to make the community aware when you need to register to vote as early as possible. And they give the formula, but you can put those dates up come January 1st at 1:01 or 12:01. But anyway, go ahead. So yes, sorry.
Yes. So I'll give some specific examples. And before I do, let me say this. The advocates, the community leaders, so Common Cause, Mass Vote, the ACLU of Massachusetts, Mass Voter Table, Progressive Mass Alliance, the advocates have been fighting for these rights for years. Okay, this is not new. Examples: mail-in balloting. Mail-in balloting is a fight that we've been in for years. They have mail-in balloting in Georgia.
What is the significance of that for someone that just says so to give them 2 seconds?
Georgia is considered, or has been considered, ground zero in the fight for voting rights nationally. It is the place that thousands of people across the country went to or lended their volunteer service to over the last year because of the voter suppression efforts that are underway in Georgia.
And they have mail-in balloting.
Georgia has mail-in ballots. We here in Massachusetts are still fighting for permanent mail-in balloting. We got mail-in balloting because of the COVID-19 public health crisis. Yesterday, in our state legislature, they were debating legislation that would grant us the right to mail in our ballots, legislation that would grant us the right to register to vote on election day.
Yep.
Something that exists in 21 other states, including
we're so progressive in this
including all of the other New England states. Yesterday in Massachusetts, our legislature, the House, because the Senate has already passed this, the House was debating a piece of legislation that would strengthen our election security and put a deadline on when we in Massachusetts would become part of a national, which means other states are already part of it, a national system that would make it easier to transfer your voter registration if and when you move. James, we're behind. And so we got to catch up.
Yes.
And there's no good values-based reason why we are behind. And so, again, I want to reiterate this. This is not new. The advocates have been pounding the pavement, beating down the door. No one was listening. No one was acting. As Secretary of State, I will. And that's one of the reasons I'm running.
So just to be clear, if I heard you correctly, there was obviously a lot of advocacy around qualified immunity. Voting rights is still going. And so I just want to be clear if I understood you correctly. This ain't nothing new. In Massachusetts. So shout out to all of those organizations and advocates that you named. And so it is there's an urgency, but the urgency was maybe exacerbated like everything else, one of the good exacerbations. So this ain't nothing new. And so it's not just because of what happened and what's going on nationally. It's nothing new on that level. All politics are local. Mm-hmm. And so I'll ask you something in real time that I'm thinking about. Do you think between now and September or November, the primary, that all of a sudden there may be, there's the things that you're talking about in the legislature, why it's being debated, I don't know. It just should be called for a vote and unanimously passed. But do you think that because incumbents become interesting when they typically go unchallenged, and then there's a challenger, all of a sudden everything that we've been advocating and fighting for, all of a sudden in an election year, there are new initiatives. There's coming to Jesus moment. So one, do you think that all of a sudden, and listen, I'm of the school of thought, and you might agree with this because you're an advocate, that in an election year, by any means necessary, get whatever and anything that we can. If that happens, wonderful. But if it doesn't, you were getting ready to talk about expansion. How do you expand the office, Attorney Sullivan, in a manner that exudes equity, not equality?
Yeah.
Come on here.
So again, shout out to the advocates on just their labor of service and love for our people, for our Commonwealth, and for our country for the values and for our country and the values and principles of freedom, justice, and equality. They've been at it. And you're right, you know, one of the bright spots in this pandemic is that it forced our legislature and others to adopt mail-in balloting and to extend the early voting timeline. And what we saw was what we would happen. More people voted. More people voted. And so I want to.
Can I ask a question? Do you know if what did you get a sense? And maybe we need to call Anthony. What did the number look like as far as racial breakdown?
Yeah, so the specific number we don't have at this time. But what we know is that we had upwards of 70% turnout, just generally speaking, and that across the board, we had greater participation. I want to make this point clear. The credit goes to the advocates. Okay. The credit goes to those who have been pushing for this for years, who knew that by tearing down barriers to access, we would have greater participation. That this idea that we don't vote, that young people don't vote, that people of color don't vote, that low income folks don't vote, that working class folks don't vote, that's not because because we aren't interested. It's the barriers that have been up. And so shout out to the advocates for helping to prove that we need to tear down barriers here in Massachusetts. And so it is, and I want to make this last point here, James. We will, at our State House, I do believe that we will pass meaningful voting rights advancement legislation in Massachusetts. I do believe it. I'm hopeful that it will happen, within the coming weeks. But it is going to be critically important. I'm an advocate, so I got to give a charge. It's critically important that folks across Massachusetts, that you're reaching out to your state rep and to your state senators and letting them know that you want them to pass the Votes Act, that you want them to pass meaningful voting rights legislation in Massachusetts. We have to keep the pressure on. And there are some great folks up there who are fighting, legislators up there who are fighting on our behalf. And we've got to give them some wind, W-I-N-D, wind, to help them do so.
My question to you is, and it's funny because I had them all lined up earlier, and now I'm all over the place. But one of the things that you talked about is the national movement that's going on, and one of the things that we are seeing is that he who used to occupy the White House, there was a different charge that pulled people into the electoral process. You and I have talked about often the lack of intentional, aggressive civic education in our communities and where that falls. I'm going to ask you a challenging question. And I told my friend and sister that when they cross over into the candidate lane, it gets a little different. So I'm going to wing this one on her, but I'm sure she got it. What would you do that would be radical to ensure that voter and civic and electoral process education would you advocate for civics to be back in school in a more aggressive manner? What would you do in that seat, Attorney Sullivan, to be sure that everybody, as much as possible, is educated to understand their right?
James, you went right to my heart. Education is the key on this.
That's right, because it used to be a BPA. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so I did take 2 years out of my transactional practice of law to serve in the Boston Public Schools as its chief equity officer. I joined my dad in BPS. My dad spent 40 years in Boston Public Schools and was the school leader. Started as a bus monitor in September of '74, desegregation, day one here in Boston. And yes, and retired when he retired, he was a school leader at the John D. O'Brien. And so you went right to my heart on education. This office should be the gateway between the people and our government. The Secretary of State's office is the Secretary of State is the chief information officer in the Commonwealth.
Not IT, not the tech people.
No.
You said the secretary.
The chief information officer. And so what that means is that the office should and could and will be, when I'm Secretary of State,
my God,
be the place where not only can you access public records, right? Should be the place where that is advocating for full transparency and accessibility of public records, right? But it should also be the place of learning and education, so that it's not just access to information, it's empowering us to know how to use the information. And so I am looking forward to transforming the office into a hub of civic engagement and empowerment. The place where we can all go to learn about how our government works, to see how we can engage, and to access the tools we need to work in partnership with our elected officials to drive, as our sister Ayanna Pressley says, to drive and inform the policies. Okay, there's power in that.
yes.
And right now we don't have it in full. But the Secretary of State's office, in my administration,
Sorry.
that will be a priority. It will also be a priority, James, for our schools and our educators to receive the supports they need to incorporate meaningful, quality civics education in our schoolhouses. We need a culture of civic engagement here in Massachusetts that can permeate then across our nation. And I am excited about doing that work in particular, because that's when we get to a culture of civic engagement, when we get to a point where our young people are learning, right, about how this all works. When we get to the point when we not only have access to information, but we have the tools to know how to use it, that is getting to us closer to the fulfillment of the promises of this democracy. Freedom, justice, and equality for all of us.
Last question.
So
Well, actually, kind of two. One is, how aggressive will you be to ensure that our inmates understand that when they're coming home, there's always this misconception that they can't vote. How will you be aggressive in ensuring that they understand the rights they still have? And then two, there was a movement out of, I believe, Lowell, Greg Cruteau, and UTEC, United Teen something center, that they were trying to get the voter registration age lowered. Is that something? I know Attorney Sullivan, so I know the cadence of that smile. And so we'll start with that one first around, are you in favor of lowering the voter registration age? And then two, what would be your approach to ensure that our inmates understand post-release what they are able to practice is still their right?
Mm. So let me see. I've got to get my years right. I think it's 2018. We had 17-year-olds can register to vote if in Massachusetts if they will be 18 by the date of the election. Okay, so it's pre-registration. And again, something that came to bear because of advocacy, grassroots advocacy. I will be a Secretary of State who is forward thinking and proactive in working with our communities across Massachusetts to help advance voting rights and voter access. And so it won't be having to pound for years to get these types of voter access rights in place. But we have early pre-registration for 17-year-olds now. The conversation that is underway, and actually Rep. Andy Vargas from a behavioral filed an amendment to the current voting rights legislation that would give municipalities, so cities and towns, the right to grant 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote. And so that is absolutely a conversation we need to have. And I look forward to, as we launched our campaign, I think this is day 11, so it hasn't even been 2 weeks. I know it feels like it has been. I look forward to, as we are convening tables, as we are in community, I love being in community with our folks, definitely working with and speaking with our young people to hear from them what they would like to see and why. And I want to work closely with our young people and with our municipalities to help support the policy changes and the advancements that they'd like to see. I think that is an important part of opening up our democracy, right? In terms of voting rights, you mentioned for returning citizens. I'm going to start a little further back with those who are incarcerated here in Massachusetts. If you're incarcerated on a non-felony, if you are pre-trial incarcerated, you have the right to vote. Now,
didn't Rep. Miranda just file, or didn't something get filed yesterday? You finish and I'll look at because I remember seeing a post about something actually is being activated to either give that clarity or ensure that they either have the right to go. You go ahead, I'll look it up.
Yes. So Rep. Miranda has filed on this to further extend voting rights. Again, I want to reiterate, we're still debating voting rights in Massachusetts. So don't let anybody tell you that the work is done, because it's not. On where we need to be with respect to voting rights for those who are incarcerated, who already have the right to vote, we've got to make sure that the structures are in place, right, to allow folks to be able to vote.
In there, that's right.
Okay, right? And that's the ongoing fight. Okay, we already have the right to vote. Now we need the systems and the structures to be in place so that folks can exercise their right to vote.
Even in that situation. Again, what are the two barriers? So folks know if they don't fall under those. You said if it was not a felony, can you clarify? Yep.
Non-felony.
Non-felony.
or pretrial detention.
So for an example, would that be like if they were with Steve, if they were in like a county? Okay. And we do remember that there was some effort in the county jails to make sure that they had the ability. I think there was a ballot box. I think it South Bay or whatever. Okay.
So Pastor Hobbs
yes.
has been his issue in the community that he's been fighting for.
That's right.
And
Right.
you know, and it shouldn't be reliant on, you know, who is the sheriff. So Sheriff Tompkins has been really good on this issue.
But if it is,
You know, but it shouldn't be, you know, it should not be contingent upon who's
that's right.
in charge.
Right.
If we have the right to vote, we need to make sure that all barriers to access are torn down. So that's one piece.
Yep.
In terms of reentry, look, this is, you know, this is not just about those who are reentering from behind the wall. This is all of us.
Right.
And I want to share with folks this morning something that I've learned in talking with folks over the past few months leading up to this moment. As a collective community across Massachusetts, from the C-suite executive to the elected official to my neighbor doing shift work to classroom educators, people don't know what this office does. So that's nothing. It is a shame that that is the case, because it speaks to the fact that the office has not been centering the people.
That's right.
Okay. And so I share that because I want us to know collectively that it's not a slight on us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have been failed. And that failure has resulted in us not being able to fully access and participate in our democracy. And I want to change that. Information is power. And it should be, when it comes to our democracy, it should be freely available to all of us. When it's not, it benefits the status quo. When it's not, it benefits those who are in the know.
Mm.
Public information belongs to all of us. And so this office, James, you know, we are going to be talking about voting rights and access because we've got work to do here in Massachusetts. It is the priority. We've got to continue that fight, right? But I want us to know that it's more than voting rights.
That's right.
It's access to reliable information. It is opening up the doors, pulling back the curtain so that we can be a part of this democracy fully.
Sorry.
And James, I'll end on this point because it underscores what I just said. This office is the place you go if you want to do business in Massachusetts. So you've been on the Secretary of State's website, right? If you want, historically, it's the place you go to register your business, to say, I want to be a C Corp, an S Corp, the LLC, an LLP, like the alphabet soup.
Don't forget us incorporated. Go ahead.
Right?
Yep.
And you go there, and I know from my legal practice with small businesses, when I've done pro bono work with small businesses, they're like, what do I choose? Right? That office can be and should be a place where you go not just to register, but where you can go to get support, James. Right? Where you can go as a small business, as a micro business, and know how to, what is a C Corp or an S? What is the difference, right?
Technical assistance out of the Secretary of State's.
Yes.
They don't do that now.
They don't do
Oh.
that, but they will when I'm Secretary of State. Okay, right? Because I know, and that is informed by the work that I've done professionally and the work I've done in community. It's much needed support, and it's support that can be, okay? It's support that can be. And so I am, as we're running, we're going to continue to help educate so that we know like what this office is all about, and so that we can understand what it means to our lives. Remember this: it's voting plus it's access to the information we need to fully participate in our democracy.
Oh.
It is access to the supports and resources we need to tear down barriers to economic equality, right? There is opportunity in this office that has not been fully realized.
So and it's suppressed?
Well, it has been to this point an office that has been purely administrative, process oriented. But in this moment, in this urgent moment in our democracy, the job description has changed. The job description has changed. Okay. In this moment, we need a Secretary of State's office that is working in partnership with our residents across the Commonwealth, with our businesses across the Commonwealth, with our advocates across the Commonwealth, for us to realize a stronger, more vibrant, and expansive democracy for all of us.
So the last 10 seconds, there was a cadence of a victory speech there, and you just turn around and walk away in your red, in your red. Shout out to the red. Attorney Sullivan, I say this, and I forgot who else was on, and Mark Martinez. We've talked personally on the show, blah, 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 over the years. But when I see you in this light today, because I'll be very fully transparent, I told Attorney Sullivan, I said, cadence changes. A lot of my friends that wound up switching to candidates, they've come to me and been like, James, you're a little hard. I thought, we were cool. I was like, we cool, but you're a candidate. But on sort of the opposite end of that, the level of respect that, talking to you specifically in how you want to execute and administer this office is just remarkable. I mean, I love you dearly beforehand and whatnot, but just chatting and looking at my screen with you today, I'm like, okay, yeah, because friends will be your biggest critics. You know what I'm saying? And I was excited, and had to hold on for a little bit, and forgot when the announcement came out. I was like, and I was like, oh, yeah. I'm happy. It's been a while, since I've been happy. Not so much, with all due, not so much just about the candidate, but when you get in, what will that office be able to accomplish? One challenge for you, when you win and you adopt the civic engagement outreach piece, please be sure that Java with Jimmy is a partner, because you talked about economic impact and whatnot. And in the, new post-pandemic model of virtual and whatnot, I just want to be sure that we can officially partner with the Secretary of State. And I know bids and all that have to go out, but this is a proven platform to engage the people to which you were referring. No, but Attorney Sullivan, and I'll say Tanisha at this point, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for all the times that you've done what you just did now. And it's just in a manner where you're being more intentional about a seat to which where you won't only do this, but you will oversee. What do you have a general number of the staff that office oversees?
So that's a great question. We actually have across the Commonwealth well over 600 folks who are part of the overall budget. But one of the things is, the Secretary of State's office has two community offices, is how I'll describe them. One in Springfield, one in Fall River. I actually want to expand that.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the work too. And so there are jobs, definitely. But there's also, again, an opportunity to expand, to be in deeper partnership in community. I can assure you that you will know who your Secretary of State is and what the office does, and not just know my name, because that's an important part of who I am and how I move. And definitely will be an important part of how I govern.
I'm excited. I asked about that because you have an influence as the president, you have an influence as a person, but it's different when you are executing equity through the office that oversee the chief information office. That I like that. I like that. Not the tech, not IT. But the Secretary of Office, the Secretary of State's office should be the Chief Information Office of the state. Madam President, Tanisha, sister friend, Attorney Sullivan, Secretary Sullivan. I'm speaking that in faith. Some people talk about, oh, don't, politically, you don't put it out there. But no, we started this convo off with faith and we'll end it with faith. I pray God's speed and protection on your life. And in that vein, I'll ask you to end with this. Are women who are running for office, who are in office, who are leaders, we know that our mayor is dealing with, yes, have your concerns about mandates, but there's an undertone, Attorney Sullivan. I think we talked about this maybe before, not particularly in this situation, but there's an undertone in that protesting. And we know that a lot of our women of color have been attacked on social media outlets and whatnot. What are you doing to fortify yourself on this race? And two, what is it that you would say to your sisters in service that may be that are some dealing with that? Have you taken that into consideration? Because I think when we did talk, I was like, no, because I was so excited. I was like, yeah, but I didn't get the chance to ask you, as I do with my friends when they talk about running for offices. Have you considered there is a mental health impact? You're running, you're campaigning, you're tired, and then also, and I want to correct something I said the other day, that in all pockets of the state you may experience. I said, when you go out toward Western Mass, and Thaddeus nicely correct me. He said there's some wonderful people out in Western Mass, but you may encounter some folks that aren't in favor of your demographic. And so have you prepared for that? And what is it that you would say to your other sisters in service that are dealing with just nastiness?
We are coming full circle in our conversation this morning, James, because first, I am prayed up. I am intentional about my relationship with the Father. It is, I don't play with that. And so I'm here in this moment running for this office because it was prayed on, and it was poured into me, it is part of my calling. And so, I know that, you know, first of all, God doesn't give us a spirit of fear,
Um,
right? But of power and of sound mind. And so, in order to maintain that, and that speaks to the mental wellness, um, ensuring that I've got my prayer time, my meditation time, my listening time, excuse me, so that um, I can stay fortified in that way. Um, and that allows me to um, walk a little different, right? Because this road is not easy. It is, you know, there are people who, and I've encountered them already, who just, they're like, it's a no, right? And there are people who are not happy with disruption, and that's what my candidacy is. It's disruptive. I'm not supposed to do this,
my God.
I'm not supposed to do this. Um, and so there are people who are upset about this candidacy, because they know that that transformation will follow, right? And change will come. And so it's prayer, it's relationship with the Father. It is, ensuring that I'm surrounding myself with people who are of love, and um, who care deeply about me. And that's not to say that they always agree with me,
That part.
right? But love me, and are ready to lift me when I need to be lifted and ground me when I need to be grounded. And I'm so grateful that I have people in my life, who do that for me. That so I cannot do this alone. And what's most important for folks, people say, what do you need? This race is going to be won because we decide to vote. And so most importantly, I need us to vote. I need your vote. I want to earn your vote. And if we across the Commonwealth, in cities and towns across the Commonwealth, if folks believe that there is more, that our government can be doing to empower and inspire us, I ask for your vote. September will be the primary. We don't have the definitive date yet, but we've got to turn out for the primary.
Who sets the date and publicizes it?
Out of the Secretary of State's office comes the recommendation for the date. So look, whatever date is selected, we will be ready. But I need your vote. I need your voice in community as we continue to talk about this role. And it's important to our lives. I'm talking about people of color. I'm talking about working class folks. I'm talking about low income folks. I'm talking about our young people. I'm talking about college students. I'm talking about seniors. I'm talking about all of us. I need your vote. I want to earn your vote. And I need your voice. We've got to spread this. And when we do, we will win. I am, I had the opportunity on, today is Friday, so Wednesday I was at Northeastern, the continuation of the MLK celebration, and had the opportunity to participate in a conversation about intersectionality, and specifically focused on the relationship that we have as women and as people of color with the LGBTQ community.
Well,
And part of that conversation, and I'll leave it on this note, was about the importance for us to recognize the we in the work, and that we cannot say that we are fighting for freedom, justice, and equality, grounding principles of this democracy, if we are not including all of us, and if we don't see that the fight for our rights is a fight for all of our collective rights. And so when I talk about this work, and James, you said it I think you said it at the top about like the disproportionate impact that voter suppression has on communities of color. Disproportionate just means that we might experience it a little bit more than others.
Peach.
But what it really means is that the impact is felt by all of us. Okay. And so when we're doing this work, I want folks to know, because I've heard this, right, already. I want folks to know that when I'm fighting alongside community and residents across Massachusetts for voting rights, it's for all of us. It's for all of us, regardless of race, regardless of gender or gender identity. It's for all of us, regardless of whether we're a senior or a young person. It's for all of us, whether we are in the 1% or we are working class or low income. It's for all of us. So I'm in this race for all of us to have full access to our voting rights. I'm in this race for all of us to have access to the information we need to hold our government accountable and to be part of our government. I am in this race for all of us to have the type of economic prosperity and economic opportunity that we all deserve. This is for all of us.
Have you picked a slogan yet for your campaign?
So we, I'm not
just found one.
Well,
all of us.
All of us.
Attorney Sullivan is for all of us. You don't have one yet. We just when you announce. See, here it goes. Come on, y'all. So y'all know I use the platform sometimes when I want to influence things in real time. Type it there. It's for all of us. But no, Attorney Sullivan, I won't go into what I was saying before, but even more so in this last segment, as someone who's a part of the community that is often, and not just when you're running. You talked about this a few episodes or appearances ago about the sensitivity of understanding the protection of all women and trans women and things like that. So this ain't nothing new for you. You know what I mean? And so I appreciate you. This is I enjoyed this. I thought it was going to be a little bit different. I was, kind of planning on messing with Attorney Sullivan a little bit, throwing her one wing question or whatever, but she's ready for it. And I really enjoyed this. I think this is probably one of the best appearances we've had with you. Tanisha, can you please in the private chat, can you type your website, please? And here we go. All of us. Folks are excited. All of Attorney Sullivan, I don't know who the CM is or whatever, but just tell them that they might want to think about that all of us, that thing will preach itself. I wish I had an organ track. Please, okay, this is where you can go to donate to Attorney Sullivan. Because and this isn't her. And with all due, well, anyway, I got to figure this stuff out. But you see what I'm posting, you hear the cadence of my voice. So if you can't figure it out, I don't know how else you can figure it out, but support this sister, and ensure, because there is a monetary support that she needs in order to get signs made, to hire people, to coordinate, scheduling, to make sure that her messaging is out there. And so it is imperative that we support this wonderful queen, this Black woman who has decades, with all due respect, decades history of advocating for us. Woo! Attorney Sullivan, that's the
You like all of us. I
that's
hear
the
hashtag
slogan. I mean, look. Yes, I agree. All of us.
yeah.
Del Irving, who isn't even in Massachusetts anymore, talk about all of us.
Yeah.
Teresa Minus, I'm excited for what will be when you're in office. I'm a supporter and full-fledged fan.
Oh, thank you so much. And James, when folks go to our website,
Yes.
TanishaSullivan.com, so it's just my name,
Yep.
TanishaSullivan.com, we are also hiring. And so we've got to hire across the Commonwealth, right? Because this is a statewide race.
That's right.
You live in Massachusetts, if you're a resident of Massachusetts, you can vote in this race. You can vote for me. We need to make sure that we're registered. So, James, we need some strong voter registration drives.
Yes.
But we are also hiring for our campaign staff. So if folks go to TanishaSullivan.com, you can, not only can you donate, and I'm greatly appreciative, thank you. You can also send us a note if you're interested in joining us as a staff member or as a volunteer. So go to the website, TanishaSullivan.com. Super excited. The work begins the work is already underway, but the volunteer work begins next week as the caucuses start here in Massachusetts. I got to get on the ballot. And in order to get on the ballot, I've got to get 15% of the delegate vote at the Mass Dems convention. And we elect delegates.
Teach.
Ward committees,
Mm-hmm.
ward caucuses in municipalities across Massachusetts. Okay. If you are a registered Democrat, you can go to your ward caucus wherever you live.
Where does one, or where should one be able? Because I remember in years past, I went to attempt to try to find that information. And is it ready, available anywhere, of where you find out where your caucus meeting is? Or
so you can get that information from the Mass Dems website,
okay.
but you can also go to our website, TanishaSullivan.com, click join us, and we can share that information with you. But I want folks to know this. If you are a registered Democrat, you have a right to go to your ward caucus and to run to be a delegate. Okay, you can do that. So we're excited about that work that kicks off next week. And again, TanishaSullivan.com, hit us up. The team is growing. We need volunteers, and we're also hiring staff. So I look forward to seeing folks in the work.
I'm excited. I'll just name that the team is growing, and I'm enjoying your wonderful posting and shares and retweets and stuff like that. And so we appreciate it. That's
I'll give a confession, because this is Java with Jimmy. So my coach, my social media coach, y'all, for now, I don't know how many years has it been?
At least 3, yeah.
Is none other than James Hills. So James has been my coach for several years now, getting me going on the social, and I'm so forever grateful for that. Now we of course have we're building out our team, and we're across. Now that I'm a candidate,
Yep.
we're building out our team. We're across platforms.
Mhm.
And so we continue to need support in that space. So again, if you're perhaps that's where someone might want to volunteer, to
And
support
it's
us.
easy to retweet. It's easy to like. And so go follow Tanisha. I believe it's Tanisha 4MA.
Yes, Tanisha for the number 4 MA. Okay, and we're on Twitter, Facebook,
Get it.
Instagram.
You gonna hit Snap and TikTok soon?
Listen,
You'll be farther than me then. You'll be. I'm not on those.
but excuse me.
Mhm.
But that's part of opening up democracy too, right? Being across these different engagement platforms, sharing information, engaging, making democracy exciting. Civic engagement, making it exciting.
You are. I think that's what it really is. It's proud, but because this is I love this proactive civic engagement. And so I think that's really what it is, Attorney Sullivan, that I'm excited about your race, yes. And again, with all due, but I'm excited about what will happen for the people when favorable, whenever that state swearing in, whatever it is. Yeah, I can. It's not often I can't talk. So you did something today. But no, this has been wonderful. And I'm sure that folks really learned more about you. I think in a different lens as a candidate. There was already a level of respect and whatnot, but this is a little bit different. This is very different. And so I know you probably have a lot. I done held you longer than what I told. And shout out to the team that made this happen, your campaign team and whatnot. Those great, wonderful folks over at 90 West, whom I love. And shout out to Alex and everybody there. All right, Attorney Sullivan, I'm going to go make some announcements. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate and love you as well, James. Have a wonderful, blessed weekend.
And stay safe and support one of those little 16-year-olds with a shovel. Don't get out there trying to do it yourself, because you know that now they're talking blizzard again. Back to 24 inches. And so it will be important that the Secretary of State just make sure wherever their office has an impact when this. All right, Attorney Sullivan, I'm going to start acting up. Let me get you off of here before that happens. Love you.
Bye-bye.
That, I think, was one of the best cups of Java we've ever had, making democracy exciting. MCT Soul is in the building and ready for the assignment. She understood the assignment. All right, guys, I'm a little tired. What did I do, Mother Irvin? What did I do? The video announcement was powerful. Marshall. All right, I'm getting off of here, everyone. I'm on a little bit. I wish I had showed that while Madam President Attorney Sullivan was on there. Don't forget, you can go to donate to Tanisha at tanishasullivan.com. And also don't forget that you can follow her on all social media platforms at Tanisha4MA. We wanted to let you know that we will be off for the weekend. I may pop in tomorrow afternoon during the snow. I do have someone slated to speak with us, and she was just appointed to the city of Boston's Boston Police Department, Office of Police Accountability and Transparency, whom Madam President was a part of advising getting that office up and running. Carrie Mays, congratulations to Carrie Mays, who is one of the members of that board that's overseeing internal affairs and complaints against the police. So shout out to Carrie for that. She may come in tomorrow afternoon and we may just do a community check-in, but please don't forget, on Monday at 9 a.m., Dr. Brandy Brooks will be back with us, and we're going to go over our homework. We're going to start talking about, I don't have the notes in front of me, but our homework is to cite 2 things that surprised us that we accomplished in 2021, and what's one area in which we would like to grow in 2022. That's at 9 a.m. on Monday. And at 1 p.m., we are bringing back Black mental wealth. We are continuing the conversation I started a couple of months ago around green space, Black equity in the cannabis industry here in Boston, and also talking about Black spaces where Black and brown folks can go just to be social and be safe, and creating more of those spaces. And so continuing more on the cannabis equity end is Joseph Gilmore, who is the cannabis fund manager for Boston Equity Program. He'll be with us at 1 o'clock. Monday, I don't know if Props is still here, but Monday, finally, we are dropping the website. We are opening the website Monday. On Monday, you will be able to go and purchase candles, hoodies, love mugs. Jimmy, what's a love mug? A love mug is basically the 3rd edition Java with Jimmy mug with some Hershey's Kisses in it. And so you will be able to purchase full-fledged merch on the Java with Jimmy website. Props has had me working for these past couple of weeks, making sure that we have content for you there on the website, and it's going to grow more. But I've put it out there. I can't back off from it. The website will be launched on Monday. And just to update about the platform, we're waiting for the software company to do an update. And about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, they said it would be 5 weeks. So hopefully in about the next month or so, we will have a whole new platform. The thing that you all have seen me test, we'll be using that platform. But the website is being dropped on Monday. So not only will you be able to get your hoodies, you will also be able to get that love mug there, also filled with chocolate. And you'll be able to get the Flight B6 1519 candle, and also the 7th and Peachtree candle that is curated by yours truly, that was handmade by Candles by Katie. And these are soy natural candles. I asked Katie to up the fragrance load. And so I have one, and I can't burn it yet because we've learned that the candles need to cure in order for the oil to do what it needs to do. And so next Thursday, we're going to light the candle right here with you. But it smells, it's first, when you open it, it smells fresh. And then there's a fruity scent that hits you. And so the quick synopsis of it is fruity fresh. But you'll find out on Monday how you'll be able to go. There are only 24 candles, 12 of each scent. And so when the website goes up, you might want to hurry up and go purchase your candle. And we're delivering locally. So you'll be able to get that. But there are only 24 of this series available. There are more, but of this series, the first 24 gets a special gift. 12 of the Flight B6 1519 and 12 of the 7th and Peachtree. All right, music's over. It's time for me to go. It's 10:16. This is the longest I've been on in a long time. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. As the mayor says, stay warm and check on your neighbors. Men especially, if you haven't shoveled in a while, don't get out there going hard, trying to shovel all hard and whatnot, and you wind up messing with your heart. They're predicting 24 inches of snow tomorrow. So I'm getting ready to go get to the store. I got food here, but you know what we do in New England. They predict snow. We got to go get our snacks. And, well, I'll show y'all later. I might go live later and show y'all what Props made for me. All right, I'm off of here, y'all. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I appreciate you so much. Oh, last thing I have to mention, we hit 1,000 likes, everybody. A couple of nights ago, I didn't want to talk about it too much because it was during Deja's tribute, but we hit 1,000 likes. We are almost, I think, at a halfway point of hitting 1,100 just a few days later. And we are over 1,500 followers on the Java with Jimmy page. And so for me, that's a milestone. For some other people and entities and outlets and platforms, you know, it's nothing. They got 5,000, 6,000 with a bunch of people there. This is just me. And 1,000 people like what we're doing. 1,500 people are following what we're doing. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you all. All right. I feel the eyes getting moist. I'm out of here. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.